Tenant asking landlord, me, to be more professional. I am a small-time landlord with just 4 tenants. Earlier this year, I had 2 sisters that didn't respond to my request to add of the gal's husband to the lease, though he was living with them. Not a big deal. But did I mention the pit bull they also brought home without permission? I do allow pets, and had previously approved their other dog. I asked nicely in person and by email in the months leading up to the malicious compliance. They also did not respond when I asked if they were happy there and wanted to renew their lease for the following year. I asked again. Then I emailed them notice that I would start showing the unit 2 days later. I try to be a nice landlord. I do. They had a newborn as well, so I scheduled all of the showings within a 2-hour window on the same night so I could be in their space as little as possible. Also, because they had not responded, and it was now serious crunch time for getting another tenant, and my spouse worked all the following 2 weeks during evening showing hours. I had the delightful inconvenience of bringing my 2- and 6-year-old children with me to the showings, because I'm not a corporation. I'm a small-time family landlord with kids. Try to imagine how difficult it is to conduct business meetings with 2 kids, right? Then imagine staggering showings every 15 minutes, with prospective tenants who are also bringing their own kids. Just to further clutter your imagination, this is an 800-square-foot 2-bedroom apartment with a cozy entryway. So I arrive with my 2 kids to find that my tenants are still at home, along with the husband, the newborn, and the other sister's boyfriend. So that's 7 people in a small kitchen already. Then the first prospective tenants start arriving. Husbands, wives with kids, and some showing up early, so there's 2 sets of them. That's 14 people in a small kitchen. And I'm a mom. I have magical powers. So I'm holding my toddler. My daughter is safely under the dining table coloring, and I'm chatting with the prospective tenants and directing traffic while my actual tenants prepare to depart. If you didn't know this already, it's common practice in the US to leave the premises during real estate or apartment showings. This was their first apartment, so I actually emailed them ahead of time to let them know what is generally expected at showings. For example, a relatively tidy apartment, and that they can leave for their own convenience. They do eventually leave after the boyfriend tells a prospective tenant that he, in fact, also lives there, and I carry on with an exhausting scheduling of showings, and have my new tenants all picked out and lease signed by the next day. Awesome, right? The next night I get a voicemail from the husband, who is not my tenant. I saved it, and just listed to it again because it still gives me that same delightful shiver of malicious compliance. In his voicemail, he told me how awful it was that my children touched his infant's things. They didn't because I keep my kids entertained with magical mommy toys, but prospective tenants also brought children, and how they had to sterilize everything to keep their infant from being sick, and how inconvenient it was to have showings with only 2 days' notice, and how very unprofessional I was to bring my children, and asked if I could just be more professional in the future. You can hear it, can't you? The deep shiver of malicious compliance vibrating through my offended being. The next morning, I started issuing professional lease violation notices. 1 for the extra residents of the unit, hubby and boyfriend. 1 for the extra dog, and a few additional ones for building concerns I noted during the showings. They ignored the violation notice, which I sent by certified mail, and thoughtfully, also by email. I decided to be even more professional 30 days later, and issue a 5-day notice to vacate. And I called their mom, who is their emergency contact, as an eviction notice is an emergency. Did I mention that their lease was due to end just a few weeks later? But it would be unprofessional of me to let these violations slide until then. 3 days later, they'd magically sent me all the information I'd requested, removed the other dog, licensed the first dog, gotten the required pet insurance. They moved out on their lease termination date, and skipped out on their last electric bill, and left the unit in damaged condition. Despite my professional security deposit disposition statement and request for payment, they ignored those notices until I stated I would proceed to small claims court by X date for the total due beyond their security deposit. On X date, they replied stating they didn't think it was fair, that they should have to cover damages to the unit or pay any more money toward their utility bill. Yep. 2 months later, there we were in the lobby of the courthouse, sitting across from each other on uncomfortable waiting room benches. They're laughing among themselves about how they're going to get their full security deposit back, and I'm quietly reviewing my presentation notes to the judge and my sizable stack of evidence, photographs, videos. This was my first time in court. But I wasn't laughing. I was preparing. 1 hour later, we're back in the lobby, and their mom is trying to write me a check for the full amount of the judgment. She doesn't have a pen. Her kids don't have a pen. I, however, have a pen. I cheerfully offer my pen. She writes the check and hands it to me, and wait. I hold out my hand again. Got my pen back, too. I was so proud of myself for not saying any of the sassy things in my head in that moment. You know why? Because I was being professional, as I'd been from the moment he'd left that voicemail. As a last note, I do acknowledge that it would have been better if I hadn't brought my children. However, if you have kids, you'll understand that sometimes they simply have to go where you go. Story 2. Ex-girlfriend wants to cut off our electricity? No problem. Hey, please tell me if this is inappropriate for the sub and I'll post it elsewhere. I was living with my girlfriend and a roommate, and we split the cost of every bill evenly, even though each bill was in one person's name. Well, that was the idea, but I naively helped my girlfriend pay her part of the bills. That is paid completely for most of them. The rent was in my name, the electricity in my girlfriend's, etc. Well, I eventually got tired of her crap. Arguments, smelly gerbils, not doing chores. And we broke up. It was messy. She took ages to move out, making sure to mooch every penny she could before leaving. When she left, I immediately started a new electricity account in my name. A week later, I got a letter of confirmation in the mail. But I also received the electricity bill for the last 3 months my ex was living with us. I opened it without thinking. We couldn't even pay it if we wanted to because the bill was in her name. I shot her a text. Me. Yo, you got the electricity bill in the mail. It's $120, so come pick up $40 from each of us. Ex. Where's the other $40? We agreed I wouldn't pay bills after I move out. As if she did before. Me. You were still living here for the time period of the bill. Ex. This is bullshit. I'm not going to pay a thing. We had an agreement. Me. Well, you can come over to get our part, or you can pay it alone. Ex. The way I see it, you can either bring the $120 to my place or have fun in the dark, lol. Me. You got me there. At this point, I realized that she doesn't know I started my own account with the electricity provider. She thought that by refusing to pay, the provider would cut our lights. Good way to mooch another $40 from us, right? But that's not quite what happened. A few weeks later, I received another letter from Elec. Company with her name on it, probably a late payment warning. I sent her a text to tell her, and she responded, LOL, why are you so desperate to talk to me? You know what you have to do. Another letter came in for her. This one was probably late fees. I have to guess because I never opened them. I messaged her, and she said, I thought I told you to never talk to me again. As you wish, ma'am. More letters arrived, but from a new address. I Googled the new sender's address and found that they were debt collectors. Scary stuff. It's too bad I couldn't say a word to her. Now, about 2 or 3 months later, I received a phone call from my ex, and I'm greeted by, what the fuck these people are calling my parents' house? I've got all these late fees, bah, debt collectors. I told her if she wants our part of the bill, she knows what to do. Realizing that she had no other choice, she caved and came for the money. My roommate and I didn't give her a cent toward late fees, and I probably looked so fucking smug giving her my money for the last time.